Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking a wrecking ball to our preconceived notions of what's truly dangerous.
Mm.
Because when you think about the world's most dangerous animals, your mind probably jumps to teeth and claws, right?
Right, absolutely. The great white shark, maybe a lion. Things that are big and visceral.
Exactly, a shark.
Rare.
But they're responsible for what, maybe a dozen deaths a year? A lion might get up to 1 or 200.
And that's the sensational view. It's the immediate physical attack that grabs our attention. But if you actually look at the data at the global fatality statistics year after year,
The real picture is completely different.
profoundly different. The real killer is small, it's often silent, and it just completely upends how we should define threat.
Okay, let's unpack that for everyone listening. Based on the sources we've compiled, who holds the undisputed #1 rank?
It is, without a doubt, the mosquito.
The mosquito.
This tiny insect is responsible for somewhere between 725,000 and a million human deaths every single year.
A million lives. Not from an attack, but just because it can carry a disease from one person to another.
Exactly. And that number right there tells you the whole mission of this deep dive. Danger isn't about the size of the bite.
It's about vector capacity.
It's about vector capacity and, critically, the failure of our public health infrastructure to deal with it. So we're going to sort these threats into tiers, starting with these unseen killers.
All right, let's start with the king then. Tier 1, the mosquito. How does one insect cause such an immense, just heartbreaking number of deaths?
Well, the scale is mostly driven by two things: parasites and viruses. Malaria is the single biggest culprit.
Right.
It causes an estimated 608,000 deaths globally. And the focus of that tragedy is just so sharp. 95% of those deaths are in Africa.
And it's mostly young children, isn't it?
Mostly children under 5. And that particular parasite is transmitted by the Anopheles mosquito.
So malaria alone is more than 500,000 deaths. But they carry more than just parasites, right?
Oh, yeah. They are ruthless virus carriers. A different type, the Aedes mosquito, transmits things like dengue fever, which kills around 40,000 people a year.
And Zika, yellow fever.
Zika, yellow fever, chikungunya. I mean, they are simply the most efficient disease spreaders on the entire planet.
So if the mosquito's #1, the #2 spot is maybe even more sobering. It's not another insect.
No, it's us,
It's us.
Homo sapiens. We are firmly ranked at #2, responsible for somewhere between 400,000 and 540,000 deaths a year.
And that's just homicide data, right? Not including other human-caused deaths.
That's just homicides. We are, by the numbers, the deadliest land mammal to each other.
That is a somber thought. But moving down to #3, we get another huge surprise. It's an animal that most people would never, ever consider dangerous.
The freshwater snail.
A snail. Hold on. 200,000 deaths a year from a snail. How is that even possible?
It's that same pattern again. Vector capacity over physical aggression. The snail is a necessary intermediate host for a parasitic worm.
A worm that causes a disease called schistosomiasis.
Exactly, schistosomiasis, or bilharzia. In places with poor sanitation, human waste gets into the fresh water.
And the snail is just sitting there, acting as the incubator.
Precisely. The parasite matures inside the snail, and then this microscopic larval form gets released into the water. And that's the infectious stage. It just penetrates the skin of anyone who's in that water.
So just from wading or washing clothes.
Yes. And once inside, the parasite's eggs travel to the organs, the liver, the bladder, and they cause this chronic inflammation and scarring. Over years, this leads to organ failure.
So those 200,000 deaths are really a symptom of poverty and a lack of clean water.
Absolutely. And what's encouraging is that there is a treatment, a very effective low-cost drug called praziquantel.
It just drives home that point about public health. And that vector-borne pattern continues, right? When we jump down to #6, we find the assassin bug.
The assassin bug, or kissing bug, another one of these silent killers. It's responsible for about 10,000 deaths annually from Chagas disease.
And the way this one transmits the disease is particularly awful.
It is. It's quite insidious. The bug bites sleeping people, often on the face, which is how it got the name kissing bug.
Right.
But the bite isn't the problem. After feeding, it defecates near the wound. And the transmission happens when the person, maybe half asleep, rubs the infected feces into the bite or into their eye.
That's horrifying.
Yeah.
And then the disease can take decades to cause fatal heart problems.
Yes, it's a very slow progressing disease.
Okay, so if that's our tier of invisible killers, the next category is about proximity, about our direct relationship with an animal. Let's talk about #5, the dog.
Our best friend.
responsible for around 59,000 human deaths a year, and almost all of that is from rabies.
It's crucial to understand that dogs are the main source. They cause 99% of all human rabies deaths. Rabies is a virus, it causes lethal encephalitis, and once you show clinical signs,
It's almost always fatal.
it's basically 100% fatal, and the virus is sinister. After a bite, it travels up the nerves to the brain, multiplies, and then it actually alters the host's behavior to make it more aggressive.
To make it more likely to bite and spread the virus again.
Exactly. It's a terrifyingly effective biological mechanism.
The sources you found pointed to a really fascinating study in Kenya using whole genome sequencing. It tells us why these preventable deaths keep happening. What did it find?
That study was so important. It looked at wild rabies strains from different parts of Kenya, separated by things like the Great Rift Valley. And they found the wild strains were a bit different genetically, falling into two main groups.
Okay.
But the key finding was when they compared those wild strains to the ones used in our standard vaccines.
And what did that comparison show?
It showed almost no difference in the important parts of the virus, the parts of the vaccine targets. In simple terms, the vaccines we already have work perfectly well against the rabies circulating in that region.
So the problem isn't the biology. The 59,000 deaths a year aren't because we need a better vaccine.
Precisely. The problem is limited vaccine coverage. It's a failure of delivery, of logistics, of socioeconomic access. We have the cure. We are just failing to get it where it's needed most.
That's a powerful and, frankly, infuriating insight. It shifts the whole problem.
It does.
Okay, moving on to Tier 2. These are the direct threats, the envenomation category. Number 4, snakes. About 138,000 deaths per year.
Yeah, and snakes are just masters of biological warfare. Venom isn't one thing. It's a cocktail of hundreds of different enzymes and proteins.
Some attack the nerves, some attack the blood.
Exactly. Some block nerve signals, causing paralysis. Others make your blood vessels leaky, causing massive internal bleeding. It's brutally efficient.
The black mamba is a great example of overkill, right?
It is. A single bite can inject what? Up to 12 times the lethal dose for a human? But again, lethality isn't just about potency. It's about how often humans and snakes cross paths.
So the world's deadliest snake, in terms of total human deaths, isn't the mamba.
No, it's the saw-scaled viper, Achis carinatus.
And why that one?
Because it's highly aggressive, it's irritable, and its habitat covers huge, densely populated parts of South Asia, the Middle East, and Africa. So frequency of encounter just drives that death toll way, way up.
It's a numbers game. And right below snakes, at number 7, another venomous creature, the scorpion. About 2,600 to 3,300 deaths a year.
And again, most of those deaths are from just a few species. The most lethal is the Indian red scorpion.
And its danger is magnified by proximity.
By extreme proximity. It thrives in rural areas, and it likes to hide near people's homes, in stacks of wood, under rocks, and sometimes inside a shoe or a piece of clothing left on the floor.
A terrifying thought. Okay, let's shift gears to Tier 3, the megafauna. This is where physical power is the weapon. Let's start with crocodiles. Number 8, about 1,000 deaths a year.
Crocodiles are the ultimate ambush predator. I mean, a Nile crocodile can have a bite force of up to 5,000 psi.
It's just an insane number.
It's one of the strongest in the animal kingdom. They attack boats. They use that signature death roll to take down prey. They are pure primal predators.
There was that terrifying story from World War II.
Oh, the Battle of Ramari Island, yes. Japanese soldiers retreated into a mangrove swamp filled with saltwater crocs. It's estimated hundreds of them were killed by the crocodiles. A true nightmare scenario.
Then we have the hippo. Number 10, about 500 deaths a year. And people really struggle with this one. They see this big, slow herbivore.
And that is a fatal mistake. That perceived docility is a myth. Hippos are incredibly territorial, especially in the water.
So they don't just bite, they crush.
They crush and they gore. They have these huge tusks, which are actually modified teeth that can be a foot long. And don't ever think you can outrun one on land. They can hit 20 miles per hour in short bursts.
And finally, elephants. Number 9, 500 to 600 deaths per year.
And most of those deaths are a direct result of what we call human-wildlife conflict, HWC.
As we expand into their habitats.
Exactly. As human settlements encroach on their territory, conflicts over space and resources just intensify. And these trampling or goring incidents are the tragic result.
All right, we've covered a huge range here, from microscopic parasites to giant mammals. For the listener, the most important part is what to do, the actionable knowledge. Let's start with the number 1 killer, mosquitoes.
For mosquitoes, it's a 3-pronged defense. First, repellents, and I mean EPA-registered ones with active ingredients like DE-picaridin or OLE, oil of lemon eucalyptus.
But there's a note about OLE for children, right?
A very important one. Do not use products with OLE or PMD on children under 3 years old.
Okay, so repellents are prong 1. What are 2 and 3?
Physical barriers and habitat control. So wear loose, long-sleeved clothing. Consider getting clothing treated with permethrin, but never ever apply permethrin directly to your skin.
And habitat control means getting rid of standing water.
Once a week, empty and scrub anything that holds water. Buckets, flower pots, old tires. Destroy the breeding grounds.
Okay, next, a bite from an animal that might have rabies. The steps you take immediately, post-exposure prophylaxis, or PP, are literally life and death.
Immediate wound care is the single most critical step. You have to wash that wound thoroughly with soak and water for several minutes. If you have it, use something like a povidone iodine solution after washing.
And for someone who hasn't been vaccinated, it's a 2-part medical treatment, right?
Correct. You get the vaccine series, and you get something called human rabies immune globulin, or HRI.
What's the most critical detail about how those are administered?
The HRIG, the immune globulin, has to be injected directly into and around the wound as much as possible. It provides immediate antibodies right at the site. The first vaccine dose then has to be given at a distant site on the body, like the opposite arm.
And the vaccine schedule is pretty strict.
Very. It's 4 doses on days 0, 3, 7, and 14. Modern vaccines are incredibly elective, but failures happen when these protocols aren't followed exactly.
Finally, snake bites. There's so much bad advice out there. What are the critical things you should not do?
Right. First, call for emergency help immediately and keep the limbs still. But the don'ts are crucial. Do not apply a tourniquet.
Okay, no tourniquets.
Do not cut the bite or try to suck the venom out. All of that is movie stuff, it's ineffective, and it causes more tissue damage. And a really important medical point, do not take NSAIDs.
Like ibuprofen or aspirin.
Why not? Because they interfere with blood clotting, and many snake venoms already cause bleeding problems. You'd be making the situation much, much worse.
So, wrapping this all up, what's the big lesson here? Our deep dive shows the deadliest animals aren't the strongest. They're the ones carrying pathogens. The list is basically a mirror of our own public health failures.
That is the ultimate takeaway. The highest-ranked threats, mosquitoes, snails, even dogs through rabies, their deadliness points right back to things like poor sanitation, lack of vaccine access, and broken surveillance systems.
Or public health challenges, not wildlife problems.
Exactly. So while we talk about individual protection, the real sustained effort has to be policy.
And what would that policy look like?
It means investing in the systems that fight the biggest killers. Massive sanitation programs to fight diseases like schistosomiasis. Strengthening the supply chains for antivenoms and rabies PEEP. Creating buffer zones to reduce human-wildlife conflict.
So the key is to shift our focus.
Absolutely. The most effective way to save hundreds of thousands of lives isn't by worrying about the shark in the ocean. It's by investing in the basics of vector control and public health on land. That simple shift is the real key to solving the world's deadliest animal problem.